Sarah and Richard, thank you for joining me on this business podcast.
Thank you.
Yes. I want to find out a bit about your business. At DB&M, we believe that people are at the heart of good business. So we want to hear more about you. Tell us about your journey to where you are now. Who or what most influenced you in your career and brought you to this place?
Well, 6 years ago, I'd been working in radio at MFR and working with Sarah, who was in sales. I was in the up front, behind the microphone, as it were, doing a farming program. And we discovered along the way that people had lost this connection between the food on the shelf and where it had come from. So people would go into the supermarket, pick a pack off the shelf, not have a clue what was in it, whether it was any good for them. It just looked all right, and they would take it home and eat it. And digging further into it, we realized there had been a sort of a 3 to 4 generation gap between people who had either an auntie or an uncle, or they visited a farm, or they'd stayed on a farm, and today, where they had nothing to do with the farm. So we wanted to make that connection, and that was the original concept of Farmer Jones back in the day, and that was how I sold it to Sarah.
Well, yeah, you pulled me over and said, what can we do with this? I think from my point of view, the influence for where we are right now, I would actually say it's gone right back for me, right back to childhood. And I think as a young person, and as Richard kind of alludes to, there is a missed generation, if you like, and not kind of knowing where your food comes from. And I think there's been lots of different things that have changed over the years. I think for me, talking about influence, it definitely comes from family, particularly my mother. I remember my mother actually, she had so many different obstacles to overcome. So I think as a woman to woman in business, and to see her run a family of 5, she actually went back to university to retrain herself, and to be a young girl and kind of watch that growing up and see how hard my mum had to work. I remember times kind of going to the grocery store with my dad, and I remember going with him and kind of just that cringy moment of seeing him actually calculating the cost of everything as he was kind of making his way towards the checkout, if you like, and just almost as a young person sort of seeing that side of things and knowing experiencing that for myself is how difficult it can be. For me, I just wanted to do anything that I could do to make things easier for families. I think to give young people opportunities, the very best opportunities in life, who maybe don't have them. So, I think for me, the whole food thing is, for me, it comes from an issue of at the family side of things.
Indeed, yeah. And did you see yourself as a managing director of a company like this at some point in the future?
No, I think it's quite funny that, as I say, and that's how, when you look back, you can make sense of things and how you've arrived at a certain point, but certainly not. I don't think I ever imagined it, but I can certainly see how it's led itself to that way. And I think my mum, as I say, she actually worked as a lead in employability services, and so I've kind of seen her work and what she's achieved. So I think I've been inspired by that, and I can see a lot of her influence kind of helping to lead me to where I am today as the managing director of the company.
Well, talking about that, the title of this podcast, the episode, is Good Business Nurturing the Next Generation. So tell us a bit about the setup of Farmer Jones Academy. What's the driving force behind the business model as well?
I think the driving force, there's a few things. I think Richard talking about, when we were working with local food producers, because that is how it started.
Yes.
Richard was really passionate about actually helping to support local producers, and I think working with them and knowing what they were actually, the issues that they were experiencing, a lot of it actually came from the skill gaps that were present in the sector, and that was actually hindering their ability to grow. I think from that we could see a gap actually in education, and I think from that point we realised that actually it wasn't working with the producers at the later stage. We had to really delve deeper and start educating young people and getting them excited about their food from a very early age. And I think making that accessible to everyone, especially in locations where, deprivation is a big thing, and, accessibility to courses can be difficult. So I think we really wanted to make sure that everybody had access to education and food and drink and understanding where their food comes from.
It's clearly been a challenging journey to get here. What's been the biggest challenge or the obstacle you've had to overcome?
I would say working with schools, we realised that when we started that we would work with youngsters. We quickly got an SDS contract on the back of working in Nairn Academy.
Skills Development Scotland.
Skills Development Scotland contract, yes. On the back of working with Nairn Academy, where we developed and funded our own first masterclass. Skills Development Scotland spotted that and came to us and said, would you like to formalise this with us, and offered us a contract with Food and Drink Technologies, which is basically years 5 and 6 in schools. And the idea is that they get a full background and everything from sort of the beginning of the food journey right through to serving it on a plate or taking it into a supermarket. And the business has developed on the back of that, hasn't it, Sarah?
Yeah. I think for us as well, as Richard said, we went from piloting a lot of this, our programs, and it went from just maybe some initial conversations and discussions with young people to having to scale up very quickly. Yeah. There was a real demand there that wasn't being catered to, which in many ways you could see that as a huge opportunity, but of course that comes with many challenges as well in terms of developing our organisation, bringing in the right skill sets into the business, and just, it's been a steep learning curve for ourselves. Yeah. So we can appreciate when our learners come in, we always say, we are learning too. Yeah.
Well, we're recording this in the fabulous old school cafe in Embo, which is part of your enterprise here, and there's food and drink, and listeners can probably hear some of the noise in the background of things being served up for us. Team members are obviously really important. How important is it for your team to be invested in the business's vision, its goals?
Massively important. I feel like if our own employees don't have the bigger vision, then how can anyone else sort of see that on the outside? I think our culture within the company is one that is a very supportive one. We all work very hard, and I feel like that is because everybody does understand what it's all about and the difference that we make by the things that we do day to day in our business.
Talking about those things that you do, tell us something interesting that people wouldn't necessarily know about your academy.
I think for a start, actually, which and it may seem obvious to many, but a lot of people don't actually realise that we're a not-for-profit organisation. A lot of people don't get the social, and the enterprise together. A lot of people either assume you're a sole charity or they assume you're a private business entity, and what we're saying is, well, actually we do both. We run a business, we make profit, we reinvest it then to help disadvantaged young people. And I feel like a lot of people don't actually realise that. Even with the cafe, we quite often have to say, well, it's actually a training cafe, and then everybody, oh, so what does that mean? And it's just giving. It's two things. It's giving young people that real life experience and learning on the job, if you like, which I think is really important from a vocational point of view. But also, I think for us, it's almost putting our money where our mouth is. If we were trying to inspire a generation and say, you could start up your own business in food and drink, well, we can actually say, well, we're doing it, and we can do it with them. And I think that's a really nice thing to have.
You said there about the fact that it's quite an unusual model that you've put forward, and people don't really understand it. And we talked about the challenges you've faced in the past to get here. What's the biggest challenge facing you right now?
I feel like it is the scale up and what comes with that, and the resource. I think resource is always a huge issue. It tends to be something that's always something to consider for social enterprises, essentially. And when you do have a huge sort of social, economic and environmental remit, it's and so you tend to have wide areas of the business that you're looking after. You tend to have various different revenue streams, and so resources can be stretched. I think for us, we're at this sort of crossroads, aren't we?
Yeah.
Where we've kind of taken our business quite a long way over the last 5 years, and we're now ready for a big scale up. So that for us is kind of, it's making sure we've got the resource and we get the support around us to be able to make that happen.
That dynamic change in your business obviously means you've got to kind of learn and adapt as you go. And how do you stay on top of things?
Well, Sarah is the managing director, and I'm the finance director, as it were. Although I was the founder, I've stayed on top of the money all the way along, because if we're not financially sound, then we're no use to anybody, ourselves or our students. We have a responsibility now in that we have a contract with Skills Development Scotland. In fact, we have more than one contract, and we have a responsibility to deliver those and remain financially sound, and in fact sound enough to keep growing. So we have these two income streams at the moment where we raise funds externally from other bodies, and we have this trading income, which is the delivery, and also now a sort of a cafe, which the cafe is intended in the long term to provide another income stream as well. At the moment we're running in a break-even phase here. Well, we're learning it as much, I think, as anything else. But it's a tremendous facility that we've managed to get hold of, and we're looking to base ourselves here and our offices here as well in the medium term before something more exciting happens, which we'll probably come on to later.
And of course, anybody sitting here would see exactly why you wanted to base yourself here, because it's a very nice environment to train people, for people to come and learn. But it's just, it has a great kind of feeling, doesn't it? This building here. One thing I do want to ask you is, there's a challenge that's faced everybody over the past while, which has been the pandemic. How has the pandemic changed your way of thinking on engaging with your service users?
For us, I would say it's certainly not been without challenge. It's certainly challenged us. However, I feel like it's brought out a lot of positives in our business. It's almost maybe forced us to make changes before we were going to. We've maybe made that change to online learning, for instance, and a more interactive learning approach.
Has it made you look at different ways of working with your team members as well?
Yeah, I mean, it shows that we can, obviously, we've had a lot of Zoom meetings, and it's because we cover such a large geographical area, actually. Before we were doing a ridiculous amount of travelling, so actually for the environment, it's been a lot better that we are actually able to work from home, and so that has been really good. I think having a venue like this and having an area where our team can come to every now and again, just to remind ourselves, because sometimes maybe the vision can get lost when you are on your own. So I think there's lots of pros and cons. But certainly I think for us it's bringing more balance into the way that we work and the way that our team work, and being flexible with our people, which we've always been anyway. We put a lot of trust in our staff, and there's a lot of loyalty there, and we reap the rewards for that, don't we?
Yeah.
You said this is a very unusual business, and we know that businesses find that marketing is really important to get the message out about them. How do you go about marketing a business like this?
Challenging. I should have mentioned that.
It's very, very challenging.
Actually, it's funny that it's good that you've brought that up, because a lot of people with the name Farmer Jones, for instance, especially young people, and as Richard said, a lot of people don't fully understand even the connection between the farm and that packet of food, or the dinner that's served up on the plate on the table. They don't make that connection, and so for a lot of young people, when they hear Farmer Jones, what they actually assume offhand is that we'll be in the middle of a farm somewhere. Richard will be milking the dairy cows again,
and you do that from time to time.
Which are all amazing things, but actually, But we actually, and a lot of young people don't actually realise until they meet with us, just exactly how many different courses that we provide around food and drink, green technologies. Business is a huge one as well, business and enterprise. And so, as you say, marketing, how do you market all of that? It's been a challenge, but we've actually worked with our business students that we have who are going through the Business Foundation Apprenticeships with Skills Development Scotland. It was a group of students actually from Invergordon Academy who worked with us on branding and did some market research with the young people that we work with, and came back with some feedback and so we will be sort of rebranding ourselves shortly. But what we like to think is that we haven't lost the essence of the organisation. We will be for you training, and it really gives that person-centred, person-centred message that is so very important to us, because we don't believe that everybody goes through the same journey, and we cater to that. So marketing has been a challenge for sure, because we do so many different things, and it's something that we're working on.
We know that investing in people, because of the nature of your business, is really important to you. How do you go about developing your own team internally, though, for the business?
So a lot of our people that we've had in the business, we've offered them every opportunity if they would like for upskilling or going through training, refresher training. So I think that's something that it's not just about training the young people that we work with, it's actually making sure that our staff all have that opportunity for continuous professional development, and that's something that every member of staff goes through here.
Yeah.
One thing that we're really interested in is how developing your team can help your business to develop greater value and to take it to new places. Do you find that something that you get a result from?
Oh, for sure. I feel like obviously if you're developing your own team and you're putting that effort in there, then your output is going to be far greater. So I do think that that's something. I feel like, especially the sector that we're in, is such a fast-paced and innovative sector, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
That things are constantly changing and evolving, and so therefore, if we were to stand still, or our team were to stand still, then we're not really in a position to be able to educate young people to the best of our ability. So we too have to be able to evolve and move with the times and kind of be one step ahead, don't we, really?
Yeah. When we're out on the recruitment trail looking for new trainers or whatever, the one thing we're not particularly looking for is a hugely academic background. What we're looking for is a passion about what we do.
Yeah.
If we don't tend to look at a list of academic results first. We tend to look at where have they been, what have they done, and do they have a passion for what we're doing. And if they get that, I mean, we look at each other when we're choosing a new member and we say, do you think they've got
the skills requirement? Yeah.
do you think they've got it? And if we both agree that they've got it, and that's almost an indescribable thing.
Yeah.
It really is,
Yeah.
I think that's, good
But
point.
that passion and that commitment to your team is obviously about delivering for your service users. How do you go about trying to get to know and understand the needs of your service users and what you can deliver for them?
I feel like it seems quite simple. It's listening to them a lot of the time. It's giving them a space. It's providing that right environment and that right space for our young people to feel like they can speak to us and that they will be heard and that they won't be judged. And I think that is at the very sort of the very beginning, and a really key thing to our whole approach with the, in learning and development. Because a lot of the young people that we work with tend to maybe feel written off, and can come in quite closed. And I think in order to really fully understand them and to be able to get an appreciation for what will make a difference, positive impact on their learning journey, we have to really understand them, and they have to understand themselves as well, and it's helping them, guiding them in that process.
Sarah brought up a number the other day at one of our team meetings, where she said, do you realise that 60% of our youngsters have a learning difficulty or a challenge of some sort? It might not be obvious, but they have a challenge. And I think some of the most amazing results we've had with our youngsters have been the ones who've actually are challenged. The others seem to just sort of sail through, and you would expect them to get there. But some of the others actually can shine in if we give them share this passion, if you like, with them, and they get it.
It's a sort of this, and actually it is a challenge we didn't pick up on, and Richard did talk about challenges with schools. I think it's a challenge with just the perceptions or the misperceptions, I feel like, around the food and drink industry for a start. That well, if you're not clever enough or you're not academic, we'll stick you into home economics, or we'll stick you into cookery. And it's that we are really, really working hard to pull away from.
Well, on the subject of working hard to get there, why do you think your venture has been so successful?
I feel like it is because we are actually, as I say, there are a lot of young people out there that are being left behind, you know, that aren't necessarily getting picked up in mainstream education. And I feel like we're able to offer them an experience within a sector that has a lot of opportunities there waiting for them.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like that's why we've been successful, because there is actually a demand out there and a real need. I think it's a real social, economic and environmental need that we're catering to.
And we give them an individual approach. So every youngster who comes to us is an individual, and we'll tailor the course to their needs. Exactly. I mean,
Hence the For You.
Yes.
It's not about us, it's about you.
That was how the For You came about, was it's actually training for you.
Yeah.
And that is the person who's getting trained.
Let me ask about your consumers. Conscious consumerism, i.e. people thinking about how they buy and what they buy, has never been more popular. What do you feel your enterprise offers to somebody who's thinking about what they want to invest in?
I feel like if I think for us it's helping our consumers, if you like, it's helping them to understand where the opportunities are, you know, for future progression.
Yeah.
And there is no denying that we're moving into almost a new world of work.
Yeah.
You know, where new age
And
technologies.
do you feel that when people are buying your coffee, buying the produce and so forth, that they understand the opportunities that have been presented for the people who've been involved in bringing it all together?
Once we tell them. I don't think they know straight away. And then once you tell them, they just think it's an absolute, it's a fantastic idea, and they really enjoy the coffee because they know that the money they've spent with you has actually gone to good use.
On the back of every menu in the cafe here is the Farmer Jones story.
Right.
So they as they're sipping their coffee, they can read about why they're here and what we do.
So they get the opportunity to see it mapped out about how you're doing it.
Yeah,
if you were going to put
really
in a couple of
important.
sentences though, because obviously people listening to that can't read the menu, what would you say?
I suppose, you know, it's about, you know, by coming here and supporting us here, that you too are actually investing in, you know, the future of food and drink. And I feel like that really is, you know, it's
And you can
nurturing
you've got that kind of ethical buy-in to...
100%. And I feel like that's what we as a social enterprise have, you know, that's what we're all about. And so it has to be front and centre, you know.
This place is literally a taste of the future, though, because we are looking to expand and build our own centre. We'll probably always have this now. I think we've developed a sort of a passion
model,
for this, and the model is great. But we're looking to develop our own centre, which will be a training centre, but also encompass all sorts of things like renewables, like sort of I don't know, sort of.
Well, I suppose you can this is the Grow for You project. Which is obviously an offshoot from the new brand that we're about to launch, and it's a community innovation campus that we're looking to create, which is at its heart sort of building sustainable communities and reducing depopulation, but it's using the medium of food and drink and everything that goes with that. So, you know, the green technologies around that, the agriculture, all these sorts of things, and using that to our advantage to be able to educate young people.
Well, you were talking about communities and green technologies here. Let's move on to the environment. I mentioned that the pandemic was a challenge everybody faces. One of the biggest challenges, that, if not the biggest challenge, that every person, community, government faces just now is climate change. How is your enterprise meeting that challenge?
So I mean, from an educational point of view, we're already, as part of our food technologies and hospitality courses, we already have elements of sustainability programs. So obviously a huge part of that is obviously raising awareness and education around, how we can look after our planet better and how we can have better, be more sustainable in our practices and more ethical as a company. So I think we're obviously part of that process.
Do you think the drive to be more climate conscious is it developed your business model side by side? Has it been part of that growth?
Absolutely, because it's, as I say, we're learning ourselves all the time, and we're in this sector which is evolving constantly. Yeah. So there will never be a dull day or a day that we're not learning something new, because that's the space that we're in.
You just said there'll never be a dull day. Obviously, there are going to have to be changes in the future. What are you? Is there anything you've planned further, or do you anticipate in the future that you're going to have to change in order to move forward with the agenda on climate change?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got, as I say, this community innovation campus. We're looking to introduce zero waste practices ourselves. We're looking at aquaponics and having a aquaponic garden, if you like, and so there's a whole element of that we're actually looking to bring in to it. So that in itself is green technology right there, and I think around recycling, and looking at upcycle, all these sorts of things. Have workshops around that. The whole waste hierarchy. It's all kind of, it's something that we're not just. We're not just educating others on, we're learning and we're putting these things into practice ourselves, just like the training cafe, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Let me move on to, since we're talking about the future, let me move back to people again. What advice would you give to young people looking to do what you're doing now? What advice would you give to them?
Don't be afraid. You can do this. If I go back to when I was 27, which is a long time ago now, I started farming on my own account, and I borrowed quite a lot of money then to do that, and it was the equivalent of what is today £700,000, so my bank manager tells me now, and that frightens me now. It didn't frighten me then, and I think that's youth. If you've got a passion for it, you think you can do it, then go for it, and we will give you all the help. I mean, we don't just stop. When the youngsters left our course, we don't just stop taking interest in them. We'll follow them on, and we hope that one day they'll be like us.
Yeah, and I think for me, something that I always start when because I get quite involved in the delivering of training, and personal development's always been something that I've kind of taken a lead on and I'm very interested in. And I always start with young people, and it's the impossible. And it's turning that into I'm possible, and that's the message. And I truly believe I'm possible, and anything I put my mind to is possible. And I think that message, instilling that into young people, and as Richard says, not having fear around things, is a really key message to put out there to young people.
So what's next for Farmer Jones Academy?
Oh well, this is exciting.
I know. I mean, it really is the scale up that we were talking about. It's having a centre of excellence, which would be the community innovation campus, where we have a whole array of different training and education opportunities and programs within the campus, if you like, helping to build up sustainable communities, building the skills and empowering people so that they can take those skills back out into their communities and actually do these things for themselves. So I think it's not about us doing it all, it's about raising awareness and empowering people and giving them the skills for them to then, to go and make meaningful change themselves in their community.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about Farmer Jones Academy?
There is so much, and so much we haven't got time for now. But I think the one thing which we try to instill into our youngsters is a passion for the industry, whether that's at the growing end or whether it's sort of at the cafe end, and all the spaces in between. Is food is I mean, everybody needs to eat every day. Food is a tremendous industry to be in. There'll never be a shortage of demand for workforce. Whichever end you go to. So if you've half an interest in food, then why not be involved in it?
Then get excited and get involved with your
and not forget about those essential transferable skills that can be taken into any industry, and I think that's a really key thing as well.
So how can our listeners engage with you? How can they get in touch with you if they're interested in what you do?
Yeah, so we do have, they can contact us on our website, so you can directly get in contact via
What's
there.
the website address?
farmerjones.co.uk.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
farmerjones.co.uk.
The reason I'm nodding my head is because as I say, there will be a relaunch of our brand and things to come. So I suppose for people to kind of watch out for that. Social media.
They won't get lost. You'll redirect them.
Oh, yes,
100%.
absolutely.
Nobody will get lost. Yeah.
We're on all the social media channels. You know,
Yeah.
we have quite a big Facebook presence, both here at the cafe and with Farmer Jones, and Instagram, Twitter, all the usual places. You'll find us on LinkedIn as well. So look out for us, and certainly don't be afraid to pick up the phone, to send us an email, whichever way you fancy getting in contact, and we'll just come and talk to you. There's absolutely no obligation to anything that we're just happy to talk about the food industry.
Yeah, I've just, as you're speaking there as well, I think one thing we definitely have to mention is that a lot of people don't actually realise that we are an accredited training centre. So we're SQA accredited, we're also Prince's Trust Centre as well, and we deliver food hygiene and health and safety through REHIS. So we can actually deliver and give young people and adults, young adults if you like, recognised qualifications. And a lot of people don't actually realise that. A lot of people think, oh, are you working through other organisations to be able to deliver these qualifications? We're like, no, we can actually take you right through from the beginning of the journey right through to gaining a recognised qualification.
We felt that was really important, that when somebody came to us, that we would end up giving them a certificate of some sort, commensurate with what they'd done.
We just tend to find in a lot of maybe third sector organisations, it's not an easy thing to become an accredited centre. There's a lot of work involved in that. And a lot of third sector organisations do fantastic work, but they just don't necessarily maybe have that the ability to do that. So
Okay, finally, this podcast is about getting to the heart and soul of good business. What is the heart and soul of Farmer Jones Academy?
People, business and creativity, I think. It's all a combination of all three.
It's finding what unlocks young people, finding that passion wherever it is. And even if they have nothing to do with food and drink after they've left us, we'll have given them a whole lot of transferable skills to take somewhere else, which we think is important. We don't mind if they never have anything to do with food and drink once they've left us, but they've taken some skills away which they can use somewhere else. But it's unlocking that passion. That's what we
say it's about nurturing tomorrow's talents, but doing that today. I think that's quite key.
Anyone listening to this will have no doubt about the passion you show for what you're doing here. Sarah, Richard, can I thank you very much indeed for telling us about what you do here at Farmer Jones Academy, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.